I just have this smile permanently attached to my face. Look at this glowing sunshine, massive glaciers, and some of the most incredible sunlight you've ever seen. I don't understand why it looks so pretty. Why does it look like this?
90% of people have never heard of South Georgia. This is part of our planet and people don't even know it exists.
We are currently on a 16-day cruise to Antarctica, but for the next 3 days, we are going to be here on the island of South Georgia, which is about 1,000 miles north of Antarctica. To be honest, we didn't know that much about this island before this trip, but it turns out that most of the expedition crew is actually more excited about being here than Antarctica.
And that's because South Georgia is one of the most biodiverse places on the planet, hosting over 65 million birds and over 5 million seals. We have been in sea for a couple days straight now and are pretty excited to stretch our legs, so we will see you on the Zodiacs.
We are cruising into the bay that we're going to be landing at in South Georgia. We are looking out the window and there's just like dozens of seals jumping in. It's making me very beloved and it's kind of insane, but like I haven't even landed in this place and it's making me cry.
Something that's pretty unique about South Georgia, they're really concerned about biosecurity, so specifically like little invasive seeds or twigs that can basically propagate and bring in invasive plant species.
We went over our stuff for hours, triple checking everything with members of the expedition team, and somehow they found little pieces of grass in our Velcro. Velcro, man, it just holds on to literally everything. But everything was okay, and we're finally heading ashore.
Wow. Just be reminded, don't sit, don't kneel, don't crouch, don't put anything onto the ground, only your shoes, your walking poles, or a tripod is allowed.
We made it!
And there's just baby seals over there.
Oh my god, I didn't even see them. That's incredible. Oh.
The place that we landed on South Georgia is called Grytviken. It's currently home to the British Antarctic Survey, but previously it had a much sadder history. It served as one of the world's largest whaling stations from 1904 to 1964, where over 50,000 whales were slaughtered. Thankfully today, it has a little bit of a cuter story. As you can see behind me, South Georgia is home to these adorable creatures called fur seals. They were hunted almost to extinction in the 19th century, but today, due to protections that have been put in place, their population has thankfully bounced back with 3.5 million fur seals, or 95% of the world's population, calling South Georgia home. To be honest, I wasn't super looking forward to seeing Grytviken for its whaling history. We learned on the ship that 1.6 million whales were killed during the whaling era, including 54,000 here, and some species were hunted to almost extinction. For example, blue whales, they have a population decrease of 97%, and it hasn't bounced back since the whaling has ended in the 1960s. Still, it kind of adds this eerie beauty to this landscape with all the rustic machinery, and it's obviously an incredibly important part of history, so that hopefully we don't repeat it.
I just cannot believe how close they are to us. So we're not supposed to get within 5 meters of any living seals and 10 meters of any dead seals. It's kind of hard to see, but behind me, there's one right there. And that's because this island and a lot of other islands in the area are struggling with bird flu. It's transferred to the seal population, and just last week, one of the other cruise ships got a report that there were hundreds of dead seals on the shore.
And there's actually a seal expert on our ship right now, and he said that the population has estimated to decreased about 1/3 in a year, which is really scary.
So it's no surprise that the officials who live here right now take this so seriously, and I'm really happy to see that they're being excellent stewards of this island. Frankly, I just feel so lucky that we're standing on shore here. There was a good chance that we wouldn't even be able to make it ashore.
That cruise ship that saw the beach full of dead seals couldn't land and just had to do Zodiac cruises by.
Technically, if there are too many people in our group that do not do biosecurity properly, they will cancel the remainder of the expedition. So I'm really hoping that everyone else is diligent, or tried to be as diligent as we were, and checked all of their clothing, because this is just really spectacular, and I hope we get to spend as much time here as possible.
Just a casual day watching baby seals flop around. We have been fortunate enough to be all over the world, and this is inarguably one of the coolest places we've ever been. I can't believe that we're seeing this and here and get to experience this. There's a church here as well as a museum, but I mean, obviously the largest draw is the wildlife here. It's just such a stunning, it looks like Iceland almost, with these giant epic peaks that are covered with green lush grass, and I just have never seen anything like this before. People started to originally hunt whales primarily for their oil, which was used for things like lamps. There was at one point 5,000 lamps used in London, completely lit by whales. Over time, that kind of went out of fashion. It was turned more towards petroleum and vegetable oils. However, whales were still hunted well into the 1960s and were used for things like corsets, perfumes, makeup. Apparently Maybelline has a very controversial history with whaling. There are countries today, namely Japan, that are still whaling. South Georgia is also quite famous for being the resting place of Ernest Shackleton, who is arguably the most famous Antarctic explorer. He's probably best known for his 1914 expedition on the Endurance, which actually got stuck in the polar ice. He wound up sailing with a small group of men up to South Georgia. He literally had to scale the mountains because he landed on the wrong side of South Georgia after they've been malnourished and at sea for months and months and months. It is a fascinating tale. He actually survived that journey but came back on another Antarctic expedition a few years later and died of a heart attack right here in South Georgia. Originally they tried to send his body to Argentina, but his wife specifically requested that he be buried right here. He is the only person buried in the cemetery facing south because of his love of Antarctic adventure. Everyone else is buried east to west.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Learn something new.
Wow.
Behind us is the first elephant seal that we've seen.
Wow. He's big.
I just really want to walk up and give it a big old tummy. The sailors, when they found a pregnant humpback whale, they would often cut the fetus out of the whale, put it in a jar of alcohol, and keep it as a souvenir of sorts. Scientists later started to bring bottles of whiskey with them to trade with the sailors for those jars of humpback whale fetuses to use for research purposes.
These expeditions have so many logistics required that we've only been able to spend a couple
2 hours.
It's really not enough. And some people on our boat are spending less time because they control the waves in which we go to shore. I could spend an entire week just on this beach here. So we are headed back to the boat now against our will. Wow.
They're so adorable.
Look at these little babies. And if you stand in a place long enough, they'll just come walk up to you.
One right behind you.
And we just have to walk away from them because they won't walk away from you.
They're just little curious kittens.
I know. I want to snuggle with you too.
I've never been someplace like this before.
I love this dedication to biosecurity. This staff is cleaning off the boots of every single person that gets on the ship. And then when we get back to the boat, we'll sanitize the bottom of our boots as well. I mean, they are really leaving nothing to chance here.
We just got back to the ship and I saw there was this patch of mountains lit up by the sunshine. So I went to the top deck to see it, and there's just this seal that's playing right in front of the boat. The piece of mountain is lit up perfectly. This is just the most, I don't even have the words to describe how beautiful this is. I honestly saw just like a few videos of this place before I booked our cruise, and part of the reason that I booked this specific itinerary was because I thought South Georgia looked beautiful, but like it blew my expectations out of the water. There's these like jagged mountains and lush grasslands and icebergs, these like jagged icebergs, and seals jumping out of the water and glaciers everywhere that you look. I'm going to say it now. Bold statement, but South Georgia is the most beautiful place I've ever been.
I know.
There's just like clouds illuminated by God.
There's just a seal right there.
Hi, Mr. Seal.
Should we go to the back of the boat? Oh my God!
This is the most incredible view.
Wow!
The light is just like kissing that area right there.
This is so incredible. Unreal. I just have this smile permanently attached to my face right now. Look at this! Look at this glowing sunshine, emerald blue, crystal clear waters, massive glaciers, and some of the most incredible sunlight you've ever seen. I don't understand why it looks so pretty. Why does it look like this?
90% of people have never heard of South Georgia before. Like, this is part of our planet and people don't even know it exists.
I was so confused before we came to this place because everyone on the ship was just so excited about it, and now I totally get it. That is so mesmerizingly beautiful. Wow.
I woke up in the middle of the night and went to the lobby to get some water. I had no idea what time it was. Turns out it's 3 a.m. and this is our view of South Georgia. Wow. Well, it's a little bit of a bittersweet morning. Unfortunately, this morning's kayaking expedition was canceled because it's too windy. We were also told that we're not going to be going on shore at all because there's just way too much wildlife. So instead, our expedition today is going to be entirely on a Zodiac boat. We are literally surrounded on all sides by seals jumping through the water. This is pretty extraordinary.
The bay that we're in right now is called Wright Whale Bay, and that's because it used to be filled with apparently hundreds and hundreds of right whales. Unfortunately, because of whaling, that's no longer the case. I just can't imagine how crazy this had to look when not only there were seals and penguins and elephant seals, but also hundreds of whales.
Wow, look at all these king penguins.
After it this morning, I was like, too much wildlife? What does that mean? We can't land because there's too much wildlife? I think I kind of understand now. So I was a tiny bit bummed that we weren't going to be able to land today, but you definitely get a very different and unique perspective of the animals this way, where they're just like swimming around you. It's kind of a much more immersive experience that you get to kind of watch them from above in the water. And it's so funny. The seals yesterday, they are so awkward on land, but in the water, they're just like flipping and somersaulting, and they look like they're having the time of their lives. It's so interesting how evolution has like shaped all of us. The guy just pointed out something he's never seen before, which is a blonde fur seal pup. One of the things I'm learning about in South Georgia and Antarctica cruises is that you have to be super flexible. So we were supposed to get off of the boat this evening. Originally it was supposed to be a landing, and then it turned into a Zodiac landing, and now it is too windy for us to land in a Zodiac, so we're just cruising around Salisbury Plain, which is home to a colony of 60,000 king penguins. I wish we could get closer to shore, but there's penguins swimming all around the boat, seals jumping around, mountains in every direction, so it's hard to be too upset. So just remember, if you do go on one of these cruises, you have to be flexible. Also, the weather patterns here are so interesting. There's a cloud formation that I have never seen before. It is our third and final day in South Georgia, and we are officially a go for kayaking. We are getting into the kayaks, and the seals are so curious around us. I can't wait to get them. Oh my god.
They're coming right up to the boat. They're so curious. have kayaked in some really cool places, but being surrounded by seals here is just one of the most incredible things that I've ever done before. I love how friendly and curious they are. Oh, here, we're actually coming up on one. Let me see if I can show you this. Look at this. Oh, wow, Jess! This is so incredible. They're just swimming with us. Oh. Hi, bud. So Jess and I have been a little under the weather for the past few days and feeling pretty lethargic when we woke up this morning, but this has been such an extraordinary experience and I'm so glad it didn't get canceled.
We are at our last and final stop in South Georgia called St. Andrews Bay. It's famous for one particular resident, which we'll meet in a while. However, I just can't get over the fact that we are just standing right outside our balcony and I can see probably about a dozen icebergs. This part of the world is so cool.
Welcome to St. Andrews Bay. Not only is there glaciers in every direction, but more importantly, it is home to 150,000 king penguins, which is the largest penguin colony in all of South Georgia. And it's believed that it's also the largest king penguin colony in the entire planet. Even though we think of these subantarctic islands as being kind of cold, it's only about like 45 or 47 degrees here right now, so it's actually quite warm, all things considered. These little penguins can survive like negative 60 degrees. So they're actually standing in a river right now to cool them down. I think penguins kind of have this goofy reputation that they just sort of like waddle around, but they are the badasses of the sea. They can withstand over 100 mile per hour winds, something like negative 60 degree Fahrenheit. They're just like really hardcore little birds. Honestly, even without all the penguins, it probably would be one of the most beautiful places I've been. Look at all of the glaciers, all of the pointy mountains. But then you add in 150,000 king penguins, plus a few thousand fur seals, elephant seals, gentoo penguins, all of the penguins. It's just, I'm speechless. I think I already said this about another place in South Georgia, but this right here, St. Andrews Bay, is hands down the most beautiful place I've ever been. We didn't really know what to expect coming into South Georgia, but any expectations we've had were totally, completely blown out of the water.
I mean, just look at this place. This is a river lined with penguins on both sides and a glacier and mountain range behind us. It's just truly extraordinary every single direction you look.
If you are a wildlife lover, this is absolutely a must-do bucket list experience.
Speaking of bucket list destinations, we are finally headed to Antarctica next week. So thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe and stay tuned for next week. We'll see you on Antarctica.